Modern medication did not work for me. Modern medication did not work for me. Modern medication did not work for me. Modern medication.
Hello, welcome to Mercy TV, your source for news and information on the medical cannabis issue as it unfolds here in Oregon, across America, and around the world. Greetings, I'm Perry Normal, and along with Sunny and PK, producer PK I should say, we'll be hosting this segment of Mercy TV in the age of COVID. So we're not getting much in the way of call-ins, but here's a phone number you can use, 503-990-2291. 2291? Right.
Yes.
Check. So you can give that phone number a call if the Mercy regular phone number isn't working for you. You can also visit mercycenters.org.
Well, and it's important if you just, that's a emergency number. So if you got an emergency, give it a call.
So we are trying to distance safely, if not socially, and we encourage folks to, during this time, respect that the COVID-19 is real, and have practices like mask wearing everywhere it might be appropriate.
Use
Constantly,
your own smoking device.
right? Everybody's done, and constantly disinfect everything. So be safe, folks, during this time, especially you cannabis consumers, because we know that you have low immune systems, and many of you are patients that are susceptible to the weakening of your system that the COVID-19 apparently does. So,
well, the guidelines are important. The guidelines that are set are important.
and they're medicine, they're science, they're fact based. So,
Excuse me. The people in the hospital, please talk to your doctors about using cannabis. You don't have to smoke it to get the benefits. There's edibles, there's oils and tinctures and other forms that you can use the cannabis molecules. And there's lots of molecules from your CBDs to your THC. And you couldn't spell healthcare without THC in the word.
And Pete has said it, and people have listened to this show, they go, well, man, I've heard that before. And Perry, it's like people go, well, man, I don't want to listen to that because I've heard it before. Well, we haven't said a lot of things that, Pete's been heard and I've been heard. And, it's like we've got things that we don't talk about because we don't want people to get tired of hearing about it, because cannabis is such a good medicine, but we want people to be educated about the cannabis and talking to your doctors about the cannabis use with your medicine, because it's so important. Because the blood pressure, the blood, because there's very important, your organs and how it does with your medicines that you use for your condition and what it does. And there's so many things going on with your cholesterol and your blood pressure and your
glycemia, your blood sugar.
There's just so much going on, and we don't talk about that, and I apologize. I take it for granted, and I've been doing it for a long time, and sometimes I don't think about using and telling others about it because I know these things, and I apologize for patients not knowing these things, Perry. We want patients to know all of it, and education is so important. We do this show to have people knowing, and like at the office, we have safety meetings, and safety meetings this is where we have education, and safety meetings are really education.
Passing different knowledges.
Well, and you get to learn about the strains. And, that was one thing. People break out their strains and go, well, I get this kind of strain. And it was kind of like, I know this does that, and it does this, and you broke out that, and these are what we know, but you got to do it consistently. And cholesterol and blood pressure and all of these different kinds of things work and do it, and this is what you talk with your doctor about.
Yes.
And that's what's important. And those are the things that we have to do, and we have to tell you, to educate the doctor with the medicines that you use with the cannabis.
So we're talking to you in the hospital. Please, hopefully you'll get better soon. And maybe even use the cannabis in the healing process. And maybe
because they don't have to
smoke it,
Sure.
and eating it, and rubbing it on, or drinking
See.
it, and making different kinds of things. Sometimes, whatever you have available, that's what's important. Whatever you have available is what you can use and what you can make, and learning, like, sometimes you see, what do I have and what can I use? And that's what's important, of how I can use it and what I can make out of it. And that's what's important. Like down at the Mercy Center, we do these things that, well, what can I use? Well, come on down and we can do these things to learn how to make things. Mm-hmm. And that's what's important. Well, I got this and I got that. Well, this is what we can do with it.
Right. Well, and so folks out there, what Sonny is talking about is a conversation that was about the different things you can use to try and extract out of your cannabis, whether you use oils or you make butter, which is butter and water, or you coconut or grapeseed oil. I mean, it's a myriad things. I think it was involving Crisco, using Crisco, as somebody recommended.
Whatever is at hand that you can use.
Now, these
all types of vegetable oils.
But I think it's noteworthy that all those extracts, if you will, were going to be used with a heated or cooking process.
No, you don't have to heat it.
No,
you
but
could let it sit, and this is a
right, and you can do that with creams, and that's typically how the PK's oil is made, and folks can learn more about that by staying here on Channel 23 if that's where you're viewing it, or viewing other videos on the Mercy TV network if that's where you're at. In either case, you want to look up PK's My Garden and see those episodes with oil making, plant growing, and more. So back to what Sonny was saying on the different ways of extracting the cannabis and
the molecule of the cannabis.
Sometimes people just don't have time. Sometimes people, their hands, their legs, they don't feel like it. They don't have, these
patience.
And their patience, and they don't have the funding, and they don't have, they don't feel good. And they want to just be able to eat the cookie, or they just want to be able to rub it on.
Well, making the cookie, making the oil to rub on.
And they enjoy it, I remember people coming, oh man, I enjoyed doing that,
Well, it was meant relief. They usually got results from them.
We had, excuse me, Perry, we had a patient calling up from Sparks, Nevada, and he was in terrible ways. This was his wife that was we were talking to. We sent the healing oil to him. He had amazing results. He still passed away, my friends, but he had a quality of life because he wasn't in pain anymore, and the tumors and the cancers were receding.
And that's the main thing we're talking about, is the quality of life. when you can talk with your doctor about your quality of life, that's what you find out, that the cannabis working with the medicines that your doctor is using, and you'll find, wow, I feel better, and that's the quality of life we're talking about. And using the cannabis is so much better, and you feel better, and you're using this plant, and you find out, man, I don't have to smoke it, I can rub it on, I can drink it, and you can use all of it to do all these different things.
And you might be even cutting down on the pharmaceutical drugs that the doctor prescribes to you.
Well, that's the doctor. Well, when he takes the blood tests, the doctors, when they do the blood test, and they do all these, when they take your blood, they do the,
Right.
they come up and
They work up all the numbers, if you will, relevant to different, aspects of the body, chemistry, like your glucose or sugar levels, your cholesterols, and your PSAs for your livers and so forth. So your obviously your red
Depending
blood
on
counts,
your
your white
condition.
cell counts, and so forth, and especially depending on your particular condition. There we are, back after some technical difficulties, quickly fixed by producer PK, also cameraman, editor-in-chief, and all-around great mensch.
Hey, but the real people are at CCTV who have let the show be here to the public, and you people in the hospital, you need to get better. You need to talk to your doctors about the use of cannabis. You don't have to smoke it to get the benefits. You don't have to overindulge in your sanitizing either. But when it's necessary, wear a mask.
I don't think you can overindulge in sanitizing. I mean, you can't do too much of it. But
Well-
that's my opinion.
Well, and that's what I was kind of saying about when you use cannabis and your condition, and what your organs do with the cholesterol and all the different things that you got going on with your blood and your organs and your heart and your liver, and see the medicines that your doctor has already given you, and what the cannabis does with what you're eating and the liver, and it does so much. And when you're smoking it and you're eating it and you're using it topically, and whether you're drinking it, all of these things are working all in harmony. And people don't understand, the more you use it, and depending on whether you're eating it, smoking it, topically, all of these things work together. And when you talk to your doctor about how much you're using and what kinds you're using, and whether the oils and smoking and are, like the Rick Simpson oil.
Right.
Well, these are important,
Well, I do. The people there might not, though, so.
Well, no, when you start doing it, and you do it regularly, and you're talking to your doctor about how much you're using, these are the things that we want the doctor to know, that with the medicines, because your organs are working with the medicine. The medicine is working with the medicine, and see, this is what goes on. Then your liver and your heart, it does good. Because it's working, and it's working in harmony together with the cannabis. Mm-hmm. And that's what, then the drugs that the doctor's already given you can be lowered, and not all the time, but usually, we've seen so much of that,
Yeah.
That's
That's one side of the cannabis, medical cannabis issue, of how well it works on how many different conditions, how good it is for the system. But I think it's also extremely noteworthy that it's benign. There are no side effects. There's no, I shouldn't say no side effects. That's not incorrect. There's not negative uncontrollable side effects. I mean, it doesn't kill you. There's no lethal dosage of cannabis, of medical marijuana. It doesn't cause cancer. It doesn't do any of the things that the reefer madness propaganda that's been out for, gosh, almost 100 years now, says it is. And those are the things, these negative things that people are, in most cases, lying about when they're not exaggerating something else, is what's keeping it from becoming legal. And its legality is what's preventing the study of it and the breakdown of exactly what molecules do what things do what. Like the value of the cannabinoids and the cannabinols. I mean, there's CBD that everyone knows about, but there's also a CBN and a CBG and so forth. And truly identifying which plants have the most of these cannabinols and cannabinoids, irregardless of if they also have THC, because even in theirs, there's THCVs and and that breakdown also.
Well, the plants are like the people; they're different, and how they work with the people and the conditions
to get the best thing.
It's easy to grow, also.
And that's something we'll find with study. The important thing to know is that with all the varieties and all the strains, your chance of dying from an overdose are 0. Okay.
But you said you got to study it, but you have to do it, and you have to use it, and you have to
identify and break down. I mean, the things that the problems are with THC and some of the other elements in it. I mean, it has if you get too much, it'll actually make you nauseous, which is unusual because it has anti-nausea capabilities.
Well, and that's
also,
what I
if
found,
you become,
Perry. I found that I can eat it, and it's really good, but I can found that if I take a couple hits, smoke a couple hits, it does really good.
Well, when you're having nausea, when you're having that, you can't eat it. You can't consume it that way.
Eating takes
getting down a tea is probably hard enough. So smoking, vaporizing.
That's what people need to know, for me. But some people don't smoke and blah, 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 because, you quit smoking or whatever. I did. I quit smoking. I don't smoke no more. But I will smoke a little cannabis, or vaporize, Vaporizing is good too, so if you vape, that's a good thing.
Right.
But there's been so much crap with vaping, and that's the other thing. If you don't know where you're vaping and your stuff with the vaping.
Well, yeah. Now, with the unfortunate bringing in of commercial interests into medical cannabis related industries, so now the vaporizing, the vaping, whose key element is the flavorizing of it to make it pleasant, and has a different thing that we're trying to accomplish here. So
it's not cannabis.
Which is odd, because the original vaporizing was cannabis, and it was about getting this cannabis in an aerosol manner that you can then consume it, that people took it in.
Well, back to if you got a vaporizer. If you got one, you can put a little cannabis in.
And that was cumbersome and hard for the basic patient to do. And now they have these systems where you just put the vegetative cannabis in there and then you're consuming it. Unfortunately, yeah, but then the aspect of putting flavorizers into the medical cannabis, or putting it in an oil base that would take in the flavorizer, and then they see that, oh no, we're using vitamin E for this element that we're trying to put all the cannabis and these flavorizers and things in, this soup that we're now mixing, instead of just taking cannabis extract or the cannabis plant. Yeah, that came in, that's not good for people, but it's not the cannabis that's bad. So that's part of the education, that's part of, and then stop the war, change the law, end cannabis prohibition.
Vote.
And these things won't happen.
And that's what's important, the education. and that we're educating people about cannabis and that it's good for you and that it's good for the different conditions that people have, because there's a lot of conditions out there that people have, a lot of these arthritises.
Right.
You know, you see all these different arthritises that people are coming up
I
with
have
today.
carpal tunnel.
You know, and if you notice on the news that people are coming up with all these different arthritises, well, you can use all these different...
Well, it's funny, yeah, that you were seeing these balms and these creams, these CBD-based things that, God, you know, there's people in jail now for doing that stuff, right? But now these other people show up with it, and it's like, oh, okay, sure, sell it. It's like,
Well, it's more legal.
But today they can sell it.
right, it's commonly accepted, you know? We just like
And
we
they
skipped
get it
over the
from,
cannabis prohibition, the war, you know,
But
and
the
these people
plants
come in, so...
that we're talking about, that you can grow, you can actually make some oils or...
Well, some places you can grow, some places you can't.
Yeah, and
Here in
see-
Oregon, you can grow.
Well, and that's another thing. If you know people in these other states, we want to educate them about the balms and the oils that we're talking about so they understand how they work.
The creams,
And man, that's what's so
the
important.
tinctures.
We want people to understand how they work, because when they understand how easy it is that they work, they are educated, because see, they're being told these other lies, and that don't work. You know, we want to educate so people understand how easy it is, because they do work, and it's healthy for your body, and it's these joints and these arthritises, man, it's so good. And then you're able to go function, you know, your quality of life. You know, back to that, when you're able to function and people working, and it's bad enough with the pandemic going on and people not being able to get around and stuff, well, now they can get around,
Right.
you know, and that's great. And people, you know, when they can get around and they feel better and they got a quality life, and this pandemic is, you know, it functions, you know, people can function so much better. And, you know, then you feel better and your mind's better, and, you know, there's so many things, and you can talk to your doctor about it.
Well, that gets back to the cycle, you know, that we talked about with a number of patients because of the cannabis, especially when they're in the scenario that PK was talking about, where they're on a number of drugs. They've got this whole number, you know, and quantity, large numbers of them, and they can reduce that. And with the cannabis, get a good night's sleep and get a good meal down, you know, and keep it down and break that cycle of not eating, not sleeping,
And they feel
and so
better.
forth.
Excuse me. You hear all these commercials for CBD products, and at the end of the commercial, you don't hear any negative things like you would hear.
You know, it's an interesting
on-
point. Every other drug thing sold has got this whole litany of things that may happen to you because you're taking this stuff, and none of which they're obliged to post.
Ever do you hear
You know.
that? And that's because it's healthy and it's good for you.
Like
And
Perry
your
says,
body-
nobody's died from cannabis.
You know,
Maybe from hemp. It was made into a rope.
well, a federal judge famously once said that the only way to overdose, to be killed by marijuana, was if someone dropped a bail on you. You know?
Well, and the thing is that when you understand how the cannabis really works, and that it works with your body and all of the things inside your body, that you understand that it's good for you.
It's effective. It's a safe, effective medicine, and people should have access to it. And we're talking all the people, young children on these very narcotic drugs that just rip their whole, flush their whole body through their system and kill them virtually internally. Very toxic stuff. And it turns them into a zombie, you know, and now we're finding that cannabis is a safer, more effective, more humane, and again, quality of life giving choice. So
Pardon me.
we won't get that out until we end the war. Won't end the war unless you register, vote, and get everybody you know to do so also.
And if you have a number split it and share it with your buddy. But he has his, you have his.
Make sure, of course, that you disinfect both hands on the way.
Well, and what's
Anyway,
really
yeah,
important too
like 2 minutes
is to
left,
make
so.
sure
Okay.
that, you know, thank you CCTV. They have done so much for us to allow to get the information out to everybody. And you know, this is the thing. We're trying to share the love with everybody because it's important.
Right, and we need
know?
you to share it. So spread the word, everybody you know, and then everybody you don't know. Just like when you're registering them to vote. So,
Thank you, Henry Turner.
yeah.
Thank you, Henry Turner. Hey, thank you for Dr. Lebeck, Nurse Ed, Mike, Shauna, and the other members here. But we're all members of the earth and we need to be responsible. Vote when it's time. Vote responsibly.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, well, then thanks to the folks at CCTV. Find out more about CCTV and other action items that we're involved in at mercycenters.org. Thanks for visiting. Be sure to tell a friend, and we'll see you and them here next time on
Well,
Mercy
and if
TV.
there's another condition that cannabis is helping you with, give Perry an email. Let him know, because that's what we're trying to do too. That would be great. You know, we found that out.
Right on. Visit. Send us an
And
email.
it's just a couple more months before my garden starts again.
Right on. We'll see you then.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
You want to say anything before I turn it off, Glenn?
Yes, good night.
Good night. God bless you all, every single one of you.